Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of C4G's podcast. That's Catalyst for Growth, our podcast to help enrich sales professionals. You got today your hosts, John Kailunas II, Kevin Berwald, CFP, CLU, CHFC, CASL, is here live in the studio with us.
Back again.
Love to have you, Kevin. Love these sessions we do together. This one's actually really exciting because of the simple fact that this is a new project we've been working on. This came out of I'll talk a little bit about the project, and then you can start with a need and we'll get right into what the project's going to cover.
Okay.
Because this is a game changer for advisors looking to establish themselves as a subject matter expert in their certain demographics. So, we are going to be authoring a book called Mission Retirement. It's going to be a very thin book, about 50 pages or so, and it's going to be able to take, and we're going to go through each of the missions that a retirement or a pre-retiree is going to go through in the book. It's a workbook of sorts, but it's very brief. It's easy to read. It's easy to use. But it allows a prospect or a client to walk through and create their ideal retirement. We're seeing a lot of research coming out that's showing that people aren't living a fulfilled life in retirement. And we feel that if we as advisors can help them do that, obviously they will become just enormous advocates for us, raging advocates. And that's what we all want, because when you create an advocate for you, you're going to increase your referrals. The cost of doing business goes down. Your profitability goes up, and it's much easier to do business. So Mission Retirement is going to be coming out, and it is a book geared for the retail consumer. You will get you'll be able to buy this book. You'll be able to, we're negotiating right now to be able to, for you to write the forward and have your name on the cover. But Kevin and I have done all the heavy lifting for you. You'd have to run it through your compliance department. This doesn't have anything to do with our financial service operation. This will not talk about numbers. It will not talk about, your nitrogen score. It won't talk about your risk tolerance. It won't talk about any of that. What it's going to talk about is the quality of life of a retired person and how they can live it much more fulfilled. The articles that we'll cite today and talk about, it's quite outstanding to hear how lonely and how disjointed our retired people are, and it affects their longevity. So we've decided to take this massive problem on and turn it into a tremendous marketing opportunity for you, the advisor. So Mission Retirement, Kevin, and we will talk a little bit about sort of what I'll use the word catalyst. This is catalyst for growth. What was a catalyst? And you and I, what was the light bulb that went off that said this is an opportunity for us to show the skills of our listening audience, the skills of the other fellow talented advisors that we work with day to day.
Thanks, John. I'd love to do that, but I can't help but think, we talk a lot about making sure that you find yourself surrounded with good influences and people that can help you grow and and make your life more abundant and fulfilling. And so these podcasts like this are a part of that. But we do research, and we're always looking around and spending time with other people that we believe can influence us. And
we have a great advantage. I mean, we get to see. We've not only so far in this career seen hundreds, if not thousands of practices, but we're constantly diving into practices and seeing what's the best practice and what are inefficiencies in practices. And it's not, we're not making a judgment. I mean, every business has got flaws and things they can shore up and become better at. But we get an opportunity. When you're working on your business and your practice, all you are eating and breathing is your practice. We get to see the forest, the trees in the forest between the trees, however the saying goes. We get to see all of that, and we get to help people and guide them.
Yep. And the important thing here is, I guess, if I contextualize this podcast today, is that this isn't really just for sales guys. The concept we're going to talk about today in this book that we created a solution for is really for anyone who's dealing with retirees. I mean,
I'm glad you clarified that, because it is a tool that sales professionals can use, but this is really for every person that's going to be retiring.
Exactly. I mean, I see this as a big thing for human resources departments. So if you work or you're collaborating with a specific company, this is a book that you could actually give to the HR department for people who are retiring, of which you could write the foreword and the conclusion in the book for. And it's not financial. You're not selling anything, is what we're talking about.
We just had an advisor that jumped into the studio and said hi to us, and I don't want to mention his name, but he works specifically with the IBEW, and what a great book for him to hand out to. I mean, he's the retirement expert for that union, and what a great thing for the business manager to hand out to every person as they're getting close to retiring. There's a ton of, but HR directors, it's going to be this is a home run. This is a great one. So
I think of elder care professionals. I think of people who work in communities of 55 plus age communities. Ministries. Yeah, we have a friend out west in Washington State who's works with pastors that help people who are seniors and transitioning to retirement. Has nothing to do with selling or but it's broad based. So let's talk about we're kind of jumping into the subject, but let's talk about the two reasons why this book is going to be really important. I'd like to point at the reasons why clients or seniors are going to like this book the most. Were you going to make a comment there?
No. Just jump in. Let's get after it. There's a lot to cover.
So I was doing some research, reading some stuff from the CDC as well as Health and Human Services. And we have these articles on our website. If you'd like to check them out, we'll connect them to the podcast somehow when you go to Catalyst, 4growth.org. And the first thing that's really amazing is that, and you don't know there's a problem until you can't fix a problem until you know it exists, right? So here's the problem. So zero in and pay attention to what I'm going to say next. This is a direct quote from the article. 90% of the people who were polled, seniors who were polled, said their greatest desire was to have purpose and value in the last season of their lives. Their biggest drive that they want for themselves is to have purpose and to have value. And it's amazing. We were also looking at some pieces that John came up with a month or so ago. John, I don't know where this graph came from with the bubbles, but
it's a fidelity graph that came to us, and it's how retirees spend their days. And I was just shell shocked when I saw this, and that an average retiree, we'll have a copy of this in the book, but the average retiree spends 9 hours a day sleeping, relaxing and leisure 6.2 hours, and watching TV 4.5 hours. So you're over 10, you're 10 and a half hours of just sitting around.
That doesn't sound very purposeful or
no, and you're sleeping the other 9.
Yeah, think about that. What these people really want and what they really need is purpose. When they got to retirement, they're excited. We talk to a lot of pre-retirees and retirees. Some of them are super excited about this opportunity transitioning. But you know what the biggest problem is, John, that I've found, and you probably have too, is that people say, yeah, I want to retire or I have to retire. More importantly, they were forced to retire because a family member got sick or they lost their job. They were planning on retiring at 65 or 62, but it happened years earlier and it wasn't their fault. It just happened, right? So people are always thinking about retirement, but we always ask them, so what does retirement mean to you? What does it actually look like? And they're very anxious and excited, but they can't describe it. And that's part of it.
You hear things like, I'll spend more time with my kids, I'll play golf, but those are activities. That's not a purpose.
Right.
And what we want to do is we wanted to get them think a little bit better and here's the key. Once they understand what the purpose is in retirement and what they want, that's a goal that we as advisors can help them attain. And if you can help someone obtain their ultimate goal, like you've helped them accumulate money. Now, if you can help them with their purpose, you're going to increase the longevity of your client and increase the longevity of your relationship with the client.
Yeah.
And you're also going to have a fulfilling relationship. The clients will become friends. They'll become individuals that will refer you. It's a very powerful dynamic.
Yeah.
And we're pretty confident that this book, Mission Retirement, is going to be able to put all of this together. So let's talk about some of the components of it, because there's...
Yep, let's do that. But I want to make 2 more points before we get into it, if you don't mind.
You're really talkative today in this episode. You're fired up.
And I like priming everything and setting the precedent. So I
Let's
mentioned
prime and precedent.
I mentioned there was two things for the clients why this book's important. One is they want purpose and they want value in their lives. The second thing is the CDC, an article I was just reading, pointed out that the number one fear of retirees, number one fear, or actually consistent fear or current fear, is loneliness. That loneliness and social isolation is their biggest fear. So
That's because they're sitting around watching TV and relaxing for 10 hours a day.
now imagine if they had planned somehow and they had thought through and created a living document where they could think about all the things they would need to do in retirement to make their life fulfilling, to make it purposeful, to make sure they're not lonely, and we could actually create something in a plan for them that they could go back to over time that's living, and they could point to it and say, this is what I need to do. The initial feedback that we've gotten from some people is this. They've said, I didn't know what I was going to do in retirement, but I went through these 12 sections in this book and I thought about it and I filled them in and I shared it with my spouse or my best friends. And now I'm not sure I'll ever have enough time to do all the things I want to do. Now, if you can create the vision for a retiree, even if they're already retired, of what they can do and help them build it and give them a plan to be active and have purpose and value, now you can back into it afterwards. If you are a financial advisor or an attorney, or you're someone who works with the elderly or retired people, you'll better know what their needs and vision are of their ideal retirement, and they'll be able to move forward. Now, the second thing I wanted to point on is if you are an advisor working with seniors, or you're an HR department and you're helping people retire from the organization, you could give them this book as well. And the cool thing about it is it's a great resource for those who are actual advisors, HR departments, and who are giving out this book. You get to write the first couple pages of the book. Whatever your thought process is to encourage them or to build in your trust and your connection to their retirement, you get to write the first couple pages.
Yeah.
And then at the end, you get the call to action to tell them, have a great life, or bring this to me so we can figure out how to design.
Yeah, and
your
that
plan.
might not work specifically for an HR director or a pastor, but we also have options in which we write the forward and the action plan in the back too. So we've got it. It's really dependent on how you're going to use this particular tool, but it is definitely something that uplifts and creates a unique bond with people. But more importantly, and I think the most important thing, is that we all view ourselves as fiduciaries. You're really putting the client's best interest at first. That's because you're putting their heart and soul and their well-being ahead of any financial sales of any sort. So you're really getting deep into the heart and soul. And let's talk about how we're going to do that, Kevin. Yeah.
So we create a book where we kind of set the stage with our introduction that we write in the book, discussing the fact that we should plan for an active and fulfilling lifestyle with purpose. The second chapter then gets into some of the constraints that people need to understand, that we've all got 1,440 minutes in a day. That's it. I mean, it's the ultimate equalizer. I don't care how much money you have, and I don't care your social status, where you're from or where you were born, doesn't matter. You all get the same minutes in the day. The question is, how are you going to fill it to make sure that it's meeting your objectives and what you want to do? So we then build in right now 10 different sections, and each one of these sections are a story about we'll start with the first one. We talk about when you get to retirement. Let's first think about who you will be spending your time with, your family and your friends, and who's most important in your life.
Yeah. Do you want to spend time taking care of your grandkids? Do you have an aging parent that you need to take care of? Is there a neighbor that has been kind to you, or a mentor that you want to help out? Right? Who are you going to focus your 1,440 minutes on each day? How much are you going to spend with them? When are you going to do it? It's always easy to say, I've got grandkids in Arizona and I live in Florida, so I'm going to go out there once a year. You need to plan that. And what this does, and when we're talking about these sections, I don't want you to think of a daunting task. This is very simple and straightforward. These chapters or these sections, these missions are 4 to 6 pages long with some fill in the blanks that your client or you can do with your client. I would suggest, if it's possible, to do it with your client, because then you can prime that pump, like Kevin said a little bit earlier. So, mission 3 is family and friends, who you're going to be spending time with. And why is that important? why is it important you spend that time with those people? Have you been away from the house? Have you been while you were building your career and you were building your nest egg? Did you not spend time with your family and you're trying to make that up? Is there some guilt there? Is there some things that you want to share on, increase like your morals or your values or your faith? And how do you do that? You do that by transferring and spending time with people. So there's some deeper questions in there that we ask in each one of these missions, but it's real important for you to understand that it is very simple to use and is incredibly powerful.
Yeah, for an example, are there some people you need to reconnect with in your life that that you've fallen away from? Maybe there's some people that you broke away from in not a good way in your life, and you need to repair some of that to make sure that you have reconnected with those you need to reconnect with. And the important thing is you'll be able to share what you're going to do with these people as well. Let them know you're retiring, and you can share this information with them. But the first thing is to figure out who you want to spend time with in your retirement.
The next mission that you have in this book, and again, there's only 13. So the next mission is hobbies. What hobbies? I mean, everyone says, I'm going to woodwork. Well, what does that mean? Because if you're going to be woodworking, you want to make sure that your woodworking space, that you have all the proper tools and everything, and do that prior to retirement, right? Work into it. Start building your hobbies out. Start making things. If you're going to start fishing, or start planning trips. If you're gonna quail hunt, that you want to get the quail grand slam. When and how are you going to do that? Right? There's 5 different birds to go across the country. Are you going to do them all in a year? But planning those hobbies out and who you're going to do that with. Are you going to take your grandchildren? Are you going to do it by yourself and your trusty old dog? So there's 1,000 different things to think of and to plan. But what hobbies and how are you going to do it? And if you're going to spend more time golfing, do you have an activity level for golf? Am I going to golf 2 times at the country club? If I'm going to golf 5 times at the country club, I'm going to try to get my handicap here. To put those goals and those things and sort of the more detail you can paint in your retirement picture, the more successful you're going to be in hitting the mission. Right.
Yeah.
And making the retirement.
Yeah. So in here, we talk about hobbies. We also talk about, are there any skills you've wanted to learn or improve upon? What are the activities that bring you joy and make you lose track of time? Considering community services and volunteer work, and thinking about the types of sports or physical activities that you might want to be engaged in. I always had a 5-year plan from the time I was 35 on, that when I was 55 years of age, I wanted to be able to retire. And when I was 50 years old, I started putting in place what we're talking about now, because I knew that I wanted to do several things when I retired. One was hunting. So I actually bought a place I could hunt when I was in my early 50s, knowing that it was already there. I was prepping it so that I could hunt with it and do the things I want to do outside. I also wanted to golf, wanted to boat more. I wanted to spend a lot more time in my church. And I knew the people that I wanted to do those things with. Now, when I start talking, I'll put this together. If I start talking about a hunting property, I'm thinking about the people I want to spend time with, and I start sharing with them that I bought this hunting property so that we could go hunting together, you start to see the dots begin to connect, right? If I want to go boating or spend time in my church, I became more active in my church with my wife and my spouse, my best friend, right? Your activities that you do with your friends are so helpful. So the next, and think about this, you're thinking this through prior to, and you're writing all this stuff down. Watch how this kind of comes together. We'll have to speed this up a little bit for the podcast, but the next mission is health and wellness and prioritizing your well-being for a fulfilling retirement.
Yeah, just by doing this exercise itself, you'll statistically you'll increase the longevity of your life, right? But are you watching your weight? Are you watching your cholesterol? All that good stuff. So making sure that you're going through your annual checks and everything, and how important that is, and scheduling those things out for you. If you have a chronic condition, what can you do to help alleviate that and increase the quality of life as you get older, right? It's not that how long you live, it's how much quality you have in that life you live.
Yep.
That's the big difference.
Yeah, there's a lot to this, from physical activity, nutrition, mental engagement, emotional wellness, your checkups you're talking about, self-care and relaxation, to think about the things that you want to do, how you want to do it, and who you want to do it with. And again, we create after each one of these chapters a place where the person reading this can reflect on and write this information down, so they begin to fulfill and create the vision in their mind of what they want to do in retirement.
So Kevin and I are using the term chapter and mission, and you'll sometimes hear us say act. They're all the same thing. It's a division of how we want the prospect or client to think and how we want the individual to view their retirement, so that it's all segmented, but we use those terms interchangeably.
Yeah, true. Next mission or chapter, we'll just call them missions, intellectual activities. How are you going to keep your mind sharp in retirement? And what is the importance of being staying intellectually engaged? A big part of our world. When you think about, we give examples, and in each one of these chapters, there's websites or books or articles that they can go to and do further research to make them go a little deeper and think a little deeper as they're filling these out. But these are things like reading, puzzles, learning a new language, creative writing. Maybe you're writing your own books if you want to write books. There's classes they can take, discussion groups, volunteering, creative hobbies. And as you start just to research any one of these and the websites that are aligned with them, you start to find all these possibilities and all these things you can do. And you're starting to put all this together. And what we're really doing as we move forward is we're helping the retiree make their retirement dream of how their best days in their retirement are going to look. And we take them from being unknown and opaque, and they start to become more clear to them. And they begin to get excited about retirement is really how it's really going to look.
Mission 8 is travel. It's one of my favorite ones. I've started to plan on this years ago, like Kevin, when he thought about his 5-year plan when he was 35 years ago. It actually goes back down to middle school for me. I wrote a paper. I wanted to go on all 7 continents. I've been very blessed. My wife and I have been on 6, and we've just started to plan. And I just wrote a check for us to go to Antarctica and to go to on an expedition. It takes a lot of planning to do that, but that's a cornerstone of what I want to do as I get older. And I need to do it soon, because going across the Drake Passage and climbing glaciers and going through Zodiac boats in Arctic waters, I got to make sure that I'm not 90 before I do it. So we've gone through a methodically planned it, but everyone talks about travel. What to the extent of it? It may not be Antarctica, it may be across the country, it may be across the state, but what travel, how are you going to travel, what you're going to do, what do you want to accomplish from that travel, what are you seeking in your travel? So all these questions are laid out easily in these chapters for you and the prospect, or just the prospect client, to go through to give a fulfilling retirement.
Yeah. And some people don't want to travel, and some people want to travel local.
If you don't want to travel, skip that mission, skip that chapter.
That's right. Another one of the missions is leisure and sports. This kind of goes back to hobbies and all that. But, if you start planning and thinking about activities that you can do when you're retired, from outdoor activities, creative pursuits, relaxation and reflection, there's just so many things you can reflect on and decide that these are my plans, and I want to make sure I do this. Don't want to call it a bucket list, but a lot of these things they're things people have always wanted to do and maybe forgot about. And now they're creating.
I think it's deeper than a bucket list, Kevin, because a bucket list is a task.
Yeah.
This is the purpose behind the task, and what fulfillment you're going to get from accomplishing the task. I love a good to-do list and checking off a box, right? I feel like some accomplishment, but there's a deeper psychological level, and this book will get people to that point. And because you've introduced them to it, you've written the forward, you've given them this key to life, they're going to hold you in high esteem.
Yeah. They planted seeds that grow.
Yep.
Who knows if they wanted to, maybe they wanted culinary, experiences somewhere, maybe arts and literature. We mentioned learning languages, cultural events. There's so many things they can do in their retirement that are exciting. And then we get to one of the next.
This is a big one. This is a big one.
Are you looking at the same one I'm looking at? Spiritual health.
Exactly. That's the big one.
Yeah, that is the big.
What do you think I was looking at, Berwald?
Well, we're looking at 2 different documents while we talk, But anyway.
I can read. I mean,
Keep feeding.
Not well, but I can read.
Make sure we're on the same page.
No, spiritual awareness activities.
Yeah, this is the number one thing that drives this is the 90% who were polled saying their greatest desire was to have purpose and value in retirement. So spiritual health really is having purpose, whatever that purpose might be.
And the prospecting client defines what that purpose is. We're not making a value judgment, but they'll define what their own purpose is regarding their spiritual activities. Maybe it's spending more time at church. Maybe it's doing mission work. Maybe it's being a mentor and maybe it's getting back to nature, right? It could mean 1,000 different things to 1,000 different people, and that's fine.
Hmm.
What we want them to do is consciously think of it and make an effort that they take a step towards what their idea of spiritual awareness and activity is in retirement.
Right. And that could include things like prayer and reflection, social engagement, volunteering your time, engaging in a worship community, seeking a spiritual guide, reading spiritual material, meditation and quiet time, and just, I think, practicing gratitude of being thankful and helping others is just, serving others' needs are just great ways to find both value in your life and to make sure that you have purpose. So we're offering them not only the ability to reflect on this, but also some resources to be able to help them go deeper and to be able to think about it, what their spiritual health activities and growing spiritually in retirement might be.
We need to do a whole podcast on gratitude and how it can change your life and change the trajectory of your practice. Because I mean, that's one thing that I've learned back from you is expressing gratitude and doing it. Now I do it 3 times a day in the morning, and I'll tell you what, I don't have a bad morning anymore. It's absolutely amazing. Awesome. It changes the thing. And I think a lot of people get up and they're worried about the next task, the next goal, but with gratitude, you don't, because you have a higher purpose. That's in a nutshell, a roundabout way of what Mission Retirement's about, is that we're giving them purpose in their golden years.
Yeah, no kidding. And it changes them from being inward and thinking about themselves and their worries to being outward and serving other people. And isn't that what purpose really is? That's where a loneliness comes in, is if you don't have purpose and you don't have value and you're not being proactively external to help other people, then how do you have purpose? And you're going to be lonely if you're not interacting with other people helping them. So this is a big part of people being satisfied in their retirement.
And you and I are fortunate. Both of our spouses we're very close to, and we're blessed that they are very vocal. That they'll tell you what they want and how they want it, right?
That's for sure.
And that's a blessing.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of people don't talk to their spouse, and as they get older, they grow apart. What I'm fascinated about this Mission Retirement is if you do a him and a her, or her and a him.
That's right.
And they compare notes, sometimes they're not on the same page.
That's right.
And if they're not, it's not going to be a happy retirement. So,
well, they'll find what they align with.
Well, that's what we want them to do, right? Where they're like, okay, listen, I'll go back to Antarctica. It's been my goal. And I told my wife she hates the cold. That's why we live in Florida. I go, do you want me to do this alone, or do you want to go? Because I said, if we're going to Antarctica, and if you complain about being cold, I'm throwing you overboard. Yeah. So she said, no, I won't. I'm going to start shopping for clothes now because it's a year off. And I'm like, okay, because this is my goal, and hers is the Amalfi Coast. So we're going to do that. But it's that communication. And if you don't, I suggest you do this separately, and then you compare them.
That's right. Yeah.
And see how close you are.
Yep. And sharing it with your friends.
It's a great date night.
Yeah. The reason we start with friends and family up front is because we want you, when you go through this and you're excited about it, to share this with those people that you want to do stuff with, and compare if it's things that they want to do or don't want to do. And how many times in your life have you had a friend where you picked up an interest and they thought that would be interesting as well, and then you both go off and do things together, and you just rekindle that friendship, or you find new friends because they're interested in what you want to do.
Exactly.
And you go create these activities. There's
create a different social circle. Yeah.
There's no way to be lonely in retirement and feel like you don't have value and purpose if you go through this, reflect, and create a plan for yourself. Let's talk about the last couple points in this, and we can wrap this up. The next one is stewardship. Investing in giving back your talents and wealth.
I think if we did this overall, it's more of a value judgment I'm making here, but if we did this overall, more people did this in society, we'd have a better, even though we live in the greatest country in the world, it'd be unstoppable if we would give more back. And I think stewardship is something that is not very well thought out by the average retiree before and in retirement, how they could give back.
Yeah. This is the one I've seen the most. When you hit somebody with an idea and they're kind of taken aback by it. It's called the eyes in the sky, where all of a sudden they just look straight up and they kind of lean their head back and their shoulders go back. And they go, oh, wow. Right. Yeah. So I'll just hit on these 7 points we put in this book, because it's not giving your money away. It's not what we're talking about. Giving your money away is great, but these are the other things. Think about your God-given abilities and the abilities that you have that are special gifts that you have that you can share with others. If you take an inventory in those gifts and figure out where where to apply those, not to keep them to yourself, but use them for others' abilities. The second thing is teach and mentor. Think of in retirement, it might not be your own children. It could be your neighbor's kids. It could be the scouts. It could be a group. It could be in schools. You can teach and mentor your God-given skills and give back. Do you know how fulfilling that is to work with young people? For some retirees, they don't even realize it.
Oh, the institutional knowledge that people carry with them that they don't share with the next generation, and I'm looking at just the workplace, right? So people have been with a firm for 30, 40 years. They need to mentor younger people. And even after they leave and are in retirement, I mean, I know of an insurance company that does this. It's a formal program. And the older executives mentor the younger executives.
After they're retired.
Yeah. And I'm like, what a powerful, he's like, and you got to hear some old warrior. Oh, back in 72, you got to hear some of that. But you know what? It's incredibly beneficial to the younger people that are learning from the wisdom of the older, and for the older people to feel involved and to be connected with something they help build is incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
We need to do that in our personal lives.
We could do a whole book podcast on this alone. This is a mission. This is where you get purpose and value from. Let's rattle off a couple of these. Serving the vulnerable. Identifying individuals and groups in your community that can't help themselves. They're there, and that people think I'd like to do this, but the point is they never connected the dots of who they are or how to help them. So we help you think about that. Live open-handedly. This is a big thing with the church that I'm in, that our pastor talks about all the time, is living open, just being prepared to help people wherever they are, wherever they're at, wherever you're around. Just being aware of living open-handedly and helping people with their lives. Who knows what that could be? Care for the environment. I mean, stewardship of the environment is a big, big deal. I'm just a big proponent. I just do not like garbage and trash and pollution in our system. I mean, we can talk about things that we might predict might be a problem in the future, but doing that is just complaining. You can take action today, and you can walk around and, our scouts in our community walk around picking up garbage on all the streets. Stop polluting yourself. I mean, it's so easy to take action and just clean up where you're at right now. If everybody just did that, that would solve a lot of problems. We also have support for charitable organizations. You call any charity that aligns with your interests and ask them if they need help, and they're going to say, yeah, we need help. They'll let you fill in and volunteering your time. So you can create a stewardship plan, and we help people think about those things, give them some resources. We have them write these things down in the book. In each one of these chapters, they're writing down each one of these missions. They're writing down their thoughts.
And they're not writing essays. They're some of them are one-word answers. Some of them are a sentence.
Yep.
But it's simple, and it's very powerful engagement.
Yep. Hey, here's the one of the I think this is the last one we have in here right now is passing on personal legacies. This is huge. People don't think, what wisdom, what memories, what things and wealth, not even wealth if you don't have any, can you pass on, and who do you want to pass it on to?
There's a $5 gold coin that my great-grandmother came on the Lithuanian side, and she snuck it into the country. And it is now in a frame on my daughter's wall. And I made sure my daughter got it. So it'd be my great-grandparents. So grandparents, parents, myself, and my daughter. So the fifth generation, this gold coin. And I wanted to tell her how important it is. Now she's, primary care physician. She's doing well. But how important that was to our entire family. And that heirloom was given to her. It's not that it's a $5 gold coin and it's worth X amount. That's irrelevant. What's relevant is what it represents. That a strong woman, right, it had the fortitude to cross an ocean and a continent to go to a new opportunity, and that American dream. And to give that to my daughter, it's one of the most cherished things that I have, that she has, and the legacy continues. What a powerful message I shared with my children.
Yeah.
How you didn't come up with that overnight with a cigar and a glass of bourbon. That was well thought out because of the way it was passed to me by my father.
Yeah.
and how I shared it. So those powerful things need to be thought out and shared at the appropriate time
That's
with the
right.
appropriate people to carry a legacy on and to carry a history on of a family, and more important, an attitude or spirit.
Yeah. And you know what's amazing about passing things on? Not wealth necessarily, but I forget I don't have the stats right in front of me, but the percentage of people in the United States that cannot name even all four of their grandparents' names, let alone their grandparents. They're gone. Think of the stuff they could pass on. So we document some of this. This I've seen resonate with so many seniors and retirees when we talk about this. They're great ideas and they love this. So here's a few of them. Um, Documenting family traditions from way back. I mean, there are so many family traditions that were meaningful at one time that are now completely forgotten about. Writing family stories. I mean, I can think of my grandparents and even some other people in my family. They seem to tell the same story every time I'm with them. But you know what? They're great stories, and they should be written down and remembered. So if you really want to, antagonize the family of heard your uncle's story 25 times, have them put it in writing so they can read it the rest of their lives as
Well,
well.
there's so many services that help you do this, right? You could do a whole thing with Ancestry.com and searching your family tree and making sure you spread that, giving that legacy on and adding things to it.
Yeah.
There's services that can do that, record that family lore, and it's so important to pass that on.
Yeah. And even just writing letters to your family uh posthumously so they can remember, I wish that my grandparents or my mother who's passed on, that she would have written me a letter, right? That I could have kept and cherished. Imagine what a legacy you can pass on with those thoughts. But what I did get from my grandmother and my mom are family recipes. They saved handwritten family recipes. I also have my mother's Bible that she wrote all over in. But those are things that were passed on to me that are just super, super meaningful. Um, Curating family photos. My wife's family had a quick family reunion, and they pulled out all these pictures. We don't do pictures anymore. They're digital, right? But whether they're digital or they're real pictures, what was amazing is how many of these pictures they did write names on the back so people could identify who they were, and sometimes a little story about the year and where it was just so meaningful to watch people react and be able to tell the stories and connect the dots. So having family photos that are documented who, what, where, when, and why in any stories is a big one. And then, you may not want to do a DNA test, but man, if you do a DNA test, I did it several years ago.
That's when
Reconnect.
you were on the Maury show, right?
Yeah, it was. I mean, turns out they weren't my kids. But just uncovered a whole bunch of I didn't realize the links of family that were disconnected within just a generation or a couple cousins away, and reconnecting and beginning to learn those stories, where they were from, and building out a family tree has been really meaningful. If you do that for your kids and those that will inherit your stuff, it's more meaningful than the money you'll give them, and it'll last a lifetime.
Yeah, think of what you pass on with that. And this whole retirement mission, that's the whole purpose, is for you to help people retire with purpose. And that purpose will enrich others around them, whether it's stewardship and somebody that they volunteered with, or it's a child that they sent the family recipe to. There's so much enrichment that you can be the catalyst for.
Yeah.
And that's what this book, and it's like a pamphlet. It's like a book. I mean, a book is a loose term, but it's about 50 pages, and it's got the worksheets in it, and it is simple to use. If you want, we'll put the forward in for you, or if you'd like to write the forward, and then you can print them up and give them to clients, prospects. It's incredibly powerful.
Yeah. It makes you a co-author very fast without having to do all the work. But I can just imagine in any business, if you're growing your business and pre-retirees and retirees were part of your business or your mission, as it were, and you're just giving these books to them to say, we want you to be able to create what your mission is, which is in retirement, so that you can fill it with information, with tools, with activities, with thoughts, with excitement, and all the things that you want to do, and with who, and have it pre-thought out and ready to go before you retire, so that when you get there, you'll say, I am not going to have enough time to do everything that's in this that we've thought through so that you have purpose and value. And most importantly, we eliminate this loneliness part of retirement. There's just no reason that people should be spending all that time, working during the day, watching TV, relaxing and leisure, and sleeping, and leaving so little time to have purpose and help
sad.
others.
It's sad to think that somebody's sitting there when they could enrich someone else's life, and they're alone looking for purpose, and they don't know how to take that first step.
Yep.
Mission retirement's a way to do it.
Yeah. Last part of the book, we give them time to reflect and start to build their mission and their plan. And then the idea is they should take their mission and their plan to whoever their advisors and social partners are, including their family and their friends, and share with them what they've come up with. Because those are the people who can help them. A financial advisor is going to be needed in a lot of cases, because what you want to do and the places you want to go and things you want to do, some of them may be expensive, and you want to know what you actually have the ability and the liberty to be able to apply to your freedom to do all these things that you now have in retirement, to that extra 7 hours a day that you now have to fill for the remainder of your life. So the end of the book, if you're an advisor of any sort, or it's your mission to work with elderly or HR, is then just to tell them what they should be doing after they've compiled all of this information and built their story.
I would talk about my process and how my process can help them get that.
Yes.
So that's what I'd finish with.
As a financial advisor, for sure, you'd have your client process in there that says we follow a 7-step process that goes through helping you evaluate, create, implement, and over time manage and nurture your plan financially so that you can do all the things that you just decided you wanted to do in your retirement.
If you guys have listened to our process podcast, we're big on that. So you can go back on the www.catalyst4growth.org and look at the process. You can look at this episode, which is, mission retirement. You can also get this obviously on all the podcast platforms, but we appreciate you listening. We hope this adds value. I know it's added value to Kevin's clients and to my clients that we've used and use this process with. We test things in the trenches. This is incredibly powerful, and it can take your practice and you to a whole different level. Remember, there's 3 principles of marketing. You hear me say this all the time. One is you can be the first in the marketplace, which most likely you won't be. You can be the best, and that's subjective. And you can be different. This is different right out of the get-go. So it's first, best, or different are the 3 principles of marketing. We know for a fact that hopefully if you're listening to C4G, you're going to the master classes, right? You're going on our website, you're going to our seminars and our webinars and all that good stuff, that you will become the best in your chosen market. But different retirement or mission retirement gets you to be different from any other advisor in your demographic. So
and that's how you gain trust, and that's how you control how you're perceived, that it's about them, not about you. You build your dream, you bring it to us, and we'll show you the process to help you accomplish what your dreams are in retirement.
Great close, Kevin. Love having you on the podcast. It's a lot of fun. I enjoy always working with you. We need to do more of these every week. We've got one that comes out new. So tune in to the same BAT channel, and we'll help you build your practice and make you a little bit better each and every day that you apply some of these things that we put together, and the other subject matter experts that we brought into the studio to talk to you about leadership and raising kids and all of the stuff we have. We have a full library. There's something for everybody, but tune in, and we'll keep giving great content for you.
You bet. Everybody have a profitable day.